Um, okay, there we go. Yeah. Gonna record. And we're testing a bunch of AT products on uh, web content. And here is our first demo session. Um, we will be talking about NVDA and okay. Um, let's talk ITC. So, a couple of assumptions that we will be using, that we want to cover right up front, is the big thing is that we're only demoing and sort of assuming that you are, and we have only kind of considered one AT product at a time. For example, if someone is deafblind, um, we're not testing any sort of AT products that, or any assistive technology that someone that would be deaf would need to use in addition to a screen reader, like NVDA that we'll be demoing here in this session. Um, and I think that's all the assumptions we had. So each of the sessions that are coming up are going to be demoing a specific AT product, and the guides, you're going to get some guides also if you end up renting our test kit, um, that you can use yourself to help you learn in addition to these demos that we're doing now to go back to. Um, and uh, And all of this is open to state employees to rent. Um, and
Hey,
after,
Kyle,
basically after. Yes.
can I jump in here? It's actually for borrow, so there's no cost involved,
Yeah, sorry, I
which is
meant
exciting.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Sorry, and wanted to just explain that. And
Yeah.
if somebody on these trainings are not part of that group, we will, with the closing of the session, the recording will be, a link will be sent to you to our YouTube channel. If you've registered, and I will also include the user guide for that type of assistive technology. So everyone will have that.
Yep.
And thanks for letting me jump in.
Yep. No worries. Yeah, and if anyone has any more questions or comments, please put them in chat, and Eileen will probably be monitoring that too, so she can chime in with questions. Um, So I guess I probably should have put this at the beginning, but the presenters, I am Kyle Bora. I am an applications developer for the state of Missouri, ITSD on the DHEWD team. Um, and I am blind, and I use NVDA, the screen reader that we are going to be that I'm going to be demoing today, basically to access my computer. And I do have some slides here that do have content, and I will be going back to them. Um, However, the main focus for a lot of this talk is going to be the demo that I'm going to be uh, giving you all of NVDA itself, specifically showing you how to test, showing you what to be looking for, and just in general giving you a good example of NVDA. Um, so we're gonna start with demo pretty quickly here. So when you get the test kit, NVDA should be set up fairly well by default. We're gonna try and get these settings to be what I'm going to be talking about here out of the box, so you don't have to be um, messing with them or configuring them at all, but I felt like I needed to talk a little bit about it just in case things get changed and don't get reset properly. Um, but just so you're aware of what options are out there if you want to change them for whatever reason. Um, so I'm going to turn my speech back on. Okay, bring up my demo.
Demo NVDA portable window. Items view list.
Okay, so that is probably the default voice that will start speaking with NVDA. Um, so I will show a couple settings
NVDA
here.
menu.
You can all of these keyboard shortcuts
Rhiannon Park.
for the most part are um, in uh, the guides that you're going to get. But to bring up the NVDA menu, you'll need to press the NVDA key, which can be caps lock, numpad insert, which is a zero key, or a lot of keyboards
Cole Robot.
have NVDA, or sorry, insert key itself. Um, and so to press bring the menu up, it's NVDA N. And to go to preferences, you press, and in settings, you go to press P
Settings.
and S for
N.
settings. Brings up this dialog, and you're going to want to look at
Speech 2 of Braille. Audio 4.
the
Vision 5.
vision category.
Vision property page. Configure visual aids. Visual highlight grouping. Enable highlighting checkbox not checked. Alt plus E.
And this is not checked by default, but I would go ahead and check it.
Space.
And that puts a little indicator around wherever NVIDIA is speaking. Or sorry, where NVDA focuses, so you can visually see where it is. And there are different cursors in different colors that mean different things.
Carly mate.
You don't necessarily have to know that, but if you get to be a little bit more advanced and want to dig into that, that does offer some more information. Um,
NVDA menu. N. Speech mode on demand. Speech mode talk.
okay.
Apply button. Alt plus
Let's
apply cancel button.
click
OK button.
OK for
Demo
this.
and
Another thing you might want to turn on under
NVDA
the NVDA tools
view log L. Speech viewer S.
is the speech viewer. This will put up a window of everything that NVDA is speaking. So if for some reason you have a hard time understanding the voice, you can get a visual output of everything that it's speaking.
Demo NVDA portable window. Items view list. NVDA.exe 87 of 100. A slideshow.
So that's available. I'm going to turn it off
NVDA
though.
view log. Speech viewer checked S.
For now. I just don't want it to be over any content. And there is also a Braille viewer, but if you're using if for some reason you're testing a Braille display, but for the most part, a Braille display has exactly what the TTS is saying, but that is available if you want to use that.
Bullet setup and customized.
You can completely customize the voice, speech rate, and etc. of the voice. I'm not going to show that necessarily, but that is available also in the preferences and settings dialog. That is about all the customization we're going to do there.
Bullet unique page title.
So we set up a couple demo pages for all
Marissa
the
MC.
demos, and we're going to go there now.
Let's talk ICT. NVDA.pptx. Testing a website for accessibility before. MO at
Okay.
testing a.
So there's a before page here on the Missouri AT website, and
testing a website.
we have an after page. The point of these demos was that the before page is not quite completely inaccessible, but rather inaccessible. About as much as we could make it in the couple months of prep that we were doing here. It could be more inaccessible, but we kind of, for lack of, we kind of ran out of time. So we have it fairly inaccessible. So I'm going to demo a couple things on this. And the main first thing I wanted to point out is that it's really important on different pages to have a unique title, not just for sighted people looking up in the address bar to see am I on the right page? Am I on my account? And it says my account up in the title bar. But it's helpful to a screen reader user too to make sure that we're on the right page. So to get the title of a page for NVDA, you want to press the NVDA key and the T, letter T.
Testing a website for accessibility after,
So
MO at, Google Chrome.
testing page for accessibility, and it's the after page, and obviously it says we're in Google Chrome. Um, but I want to be on the before page, so I'll switch to tab, Control Tab,
Testing a web.
and now we're gonna see, and it should read the title again when you switch tabs, but I just stopped it, and I'm gonna make it read it again.
Testing a website for accessibility before,
Yeah,
MO at, Google Chrome.
testing website for accessibility before. Um, so that's a useful tool. And it becomes trickier when we have a little bit more dynamic pages, where you're having JavaScript run, and you're doing interactions on the page. You may not have a page switch, um, or a context switch. So it's still important to communicate state changes in that case. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but that's um, another thought to have to tell someone where they're at. Let's go back to the PowerPoint.
Slideshow. Bullet unique page.
Um,
Slide.
and
Bullet check alt text.
the next thing we're going to look at is alt text. And basically, alt text is a string of text that you can add to images, graphics, etc. on a website to convey to someone using a screen reader what the image is about.
Matthew does.
And there's a couple considerations here.
Bullet, is it missing?
First off, do you even have it? Is it missing?
Bullet, is it correct?
Second off, is it correct? Like, did you adequately describe the picture? Did you convey enough information that the person using your screen reader gets the information out of the text that you were trying to convey with that picture? And basically what you're trying to communicate is if you can see it in the picture, you probably want to put it in the alt text, but especially text. If it's a text and an image, I would first ask why is the text in the image and it can't be on the page itself in the first place. But if there's text in the image, you need to put what the text is, and just sort of like make the description as if you're talking with your best friend on the phone, and you're scrolling through social media. You're trying to describe the picture to them. They can't see the picture, but just talk to them and describe it to them. It's not that complicated. You don't need to be overly verbose, and you don't need to be, and I would probably not tend to be super short, but you want to be concise enough that it's not paragraphs and paragraphs of description.
Bullet, is your image decorative?
The one caveat you want to think of is there is a category under the WCAG standards called a decorative image, and basically, does it offer any additional? Does this image that you put on your page offer anything more to the content of your article or the content of your page? And like I said, if there's text in the image or it's just like some sidebar image that doesn't necessarily add too much to the article, you probably don't need to put alt text on it. But I would say when in doubt, put alt text on it, because that usually won't hurt anything. But if it's an important image that you forget to put alt text on, then we're really missing out.
Bullet check and be on the lookout for AI alt.
So the last thing here
Bullet check
is that you want to be on the lookout and sort of pay attention to some rise in AI alt text. AI meaning artificial intelligence. A lot of browsers nowadays and screen readers and third-party services a la ChatGPT are able to process images now. And for us in the blindness community, we can throw them images send them images and get a text description out of it as if it was alt text, which is good on the surface. However, if you've heard anything about ChatGPT in the past year, several months, it's not always the most accurate. And a lot of services are building in AI description alt text, including Facebook. A lot of the mobile phone operating systems are automatically trying to identify what's in photos, which is good. Um, However, they're not the most accurate and they're not the most descriptive. Especially Facebook is like maybe image of food. Well, that's great, but there's a lot of food out there. And so if you have an image on your Facebook page or blog or website or whatever, we might be able to get an alternative description through AI, but it may not be the most accurate. And I think um, that if it's your content out there, you want the most accurate information out there so that people aren't led. I want to say led astray, but they get the most accurate information that you're able to provide them through their alt text. So we're gonna do a little demo here.
Testing a web
Um,
link.
so we're gonna start at the top of the page, and to get to the graphics on the page with NVDA, um, you'll want to, by default, when you hit the page will be, unless it lands on a text field, the page will be in browse mode.
1018
And you want to press G for graphics, and that will navigate through the different graphics.
banner landmark mo at jaws.jpg graphic.
So this first graphic, it just says jaws.jpg. And I don't really know what that means because that doesn't give any alt text.
No description available.
In
Graphic.
this next graphic, it says no description available. Typically, if there's no alt text, it's not actually going to say that. But and honestly, if there's no image or no alt text in the image, it's going to skip over it. NVDA usually will. But let's go back over to the after page and see what these other alt text says.
Testing H
Press G again.
G G G G H T G G H HTTP G.
Come on.
Testing a web banner
There you go.
landmark visit
Stuck in the address bar.
JAWS screen reader graphic.
So the next graphic just say draw a screen reader, which isn't quite as helpful, but is a little bit better. Honestly, I'd probably say this image is a little bit on the more decorative side because all the other content is in the paragraph about screen readers. So we probably may have wanted to make that decorative, but oh well.
NV Access logo graphic.
And there's some graphics here in this image gallery.
Apple Voice over Microsoft
Skip past these.
drawing of an ear showing 3 protruding lines extending outward. Graphic.
And that's a good description of that photo. Give you a little bit more context of what's actually in the photo.
Screen reader usage chart. Accessible version graphic.
And this doesn't actually have any alt text as far as the content of the image, which we probably should have put in there, but all the content is in the text too. So that's also available. Okay, let's go
Slideshow.
back to the slideshow.
Slideshow. Slide 6. NV from Missouri. Bullet proper headings.
So another big thing is headings. And the headings allow, particularly even someone with sight to scan down the page and see like the main areas of the page, get a good structure, but it's critically important for someone with a screen reader. Because a lot of people with screen readers, they'll just go to a page and start pressing H for headings so they can see what's on the page. But unfortunately, a lot of pages either don't have headings or have improper headings or a lot of stuff, and that really hampers navigation.
Bullet semantic headings, not visual.
So we want semantic headings, which means actual headings defined in HTML, not visually styled headings. And that means like styled through CSS to make the text look bigger and bolder and set apart. We want you don't need to do that through CSS. You can do a regular semantic heading, and that takes care of that visually for you.
Bullet sequential,
And
increase.
and we want the headings to be sequential, meaning there's different heading levels, 1 through 6. Typically, the title of the page is usually heading level 1. You can have multiple of heading level 1, heading level 2, heading level 3 in a row, but if you increase the heading level, you want to go sequentially 1, 2, 3, 4, and absolutely no skipping. So if you skip from heading level 1 to heading level 3, you need a heading level 2 in the middle of that, or change your heading level 3 to be a 2 because you want to go 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, whatever the numbers are, but be sequential.
Bullet sequential, bullets.
And so let's demo that real quick.
Testing a
So let's go back to the before
testing a
page.
website for accessibility before.
And this is actually a pretty good heading example because
Link.
we're going to go back to the top and we're going to press H for headings.
Testing a website for accessibility before heading level. Visuals that move. Testing.
And so this testing heading level 1 is the title of the page, so it has a heading level 1. But our next heading that we're going to go to
Visuals that move. Heading level 6.
is the visuals that move.
Natalie King has.
And that said heading level 6. And the next heading also
Audio heading level 6.
is this audio heading, which is level 6, which is way far down the page. And then we go
Connect heading level 2
to the connect footer. And so there's a whole bunch of headings on this page, but because they weren't semantic headings, they were visual styled headings. They were not picked up by NVDA. So let's go back to the demo.
Testing a website
page, and
link.
We're gonna go back up to the top, and we're gonna have a lot more headings here.
Testing a website for accessibility after heading level 1.
Heading level 1 from the title.
And
Page
Kyle,
sections heading level 2.
Yes.
we have 2 questions. Is there a way to see a list of the headings? And how are you going back to the top of the page?
Good questions. I am going to top of the page with Control Home. That's not an NVDA keyboard shortcut directly. That's just kind of built into documents in your browser or in your computer operating system. Control Home on Windows. If you're on Mac, that would be Command up arrow. But that's how we do that. And to see the different headings, yes, there's a list. If you press NVDA key and F7, which is sort of similar to something in JAWS, if you're more used to JAWS, the links list. But this goes a little bit further in that it not only does the links,
elements list.
It's the elements list.
Filter by edit Alt plus activate button, move to button Alt plus cancel button, type.
There's
Grouping.
a different type
links
here.
Radio button checked Alt plus K.
There's links.
Headings radio button checked Alt plus H.
Headings.
Tree view.
And so here's the tree view of all the headings.
Visuals that move.
Visuals
2
that
of 10
move.
level 1. Links 3 of 10 level 1.
Links.
Tables 4 of 10 level 1.
Tables. So all this is here. And I actually kind of like this better than JAWS because you get to move by or see a list of all the different types of elements. So good. I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to add this in here.
Testing.
But yeah, all these headings are here.
Page
Move
sections heading level 2. Visuals that move.
Visuals that move.
Links heading level 2. Tables heading level 2.
Tables.
Color contrast. Images. Graphics heading level 2.
I don't think we have anything
alternative text heading level 3.
Lower than 3?
Use of
yes, we
alternative text heading level.
So as I said before, the main heading at the top is heading level 1. There's a bunch of heading level 2s.
Color contrast. Images.
All the way down to this
heading level 2.
Contrast level.
From Missouri Assist.
And then the next heading.
Alternative text heading level 3.
Text is heading level 3. So the sequential headings are intact here.
Go
back to the demo.
Bullet sequential. Slideshow. Bullet forms.
So forms.
Bullet label associated
forms are very popular out there, and they're probably some of the most annoying when they're not accessible. The main thing you want for your forms is to have a label
from Tracy
bound to that input element. So when you're going through the form on the page, when you hit tab and it hits the first name field, it will read first name, last name, phone number, etc. And there's nothing more annoying than having an unlabeled field. You're trying to figure out what they actually want you to put in the form field.
Bullet placeholder text.
And a placeholder text is kind of like a little example of particularly a date. If you want to put a date into a form and they want you to do mm/dd/yyyy, if you use a placeholder text, that can be helpful and available. You don't have to use it, but it is a consideration to help your users cited and not.
Bullet logical tab order.
And the logical tab order. This uh, typically NVDA goes from top to bottom, left to right. And I would say to try and not change that. You can, but try and stick with that. But as you're moving through your form and you're pressing tab to go to the different elements, make sure that it goes in a logical order. Um, like if you have multiple fields for name, multiple fields for a birthday, multiple fields for a phone number, make sure it goes in the proper order, top to bottom, left to right. Which if you're doing everything right, it probably should.
Bullet give proper feedback for errors and how.
And the last thing is that if they have input something wrong on the form, you want to give proper feedback for the errors. And a big thing I see here is uh, all the different forms that are incorrect are red. Well, red doesn't tell me anything because as a screen reader user, I can kind of get some information about a color, but it's not quite so straightforward. So um, either have some sort of other indicator or a list of errors or directly put the focus, which you can do on the error, which are on the form field with the error, which are a couple kind of um, techniques to solve this. Um, but that's kind of a couple of examples. But let me demo this real quick.
1020 testing a.
So the forms are interesting because we don't really have a very good inaccessible form here. So I'm just going to do the after page.
Testing a website for accessibility after. Link.
But this mode I've been in to press the different keyboard shortcuts, that's called browse mode. And to get to an area, because I'm pressing like I said, H for headings, G for graphics, B for buttons, K's for links, all the different stuff you can navigate by that in browse mode. But people are kind of confused sometimes. Well, how do I type in a text field? Well, a lot of times to type in a text field, you need to be in focus mode or forms mode, as JAWS likes to say, if you're familiar with JAWS. And a lot of times automatically it will go into focus mode if you hit a text field. But if it doesn't, you can activate it with NVDA space. If it automatically goes into forms mode, you can get out of it with escape. But if you go into forms mode for some focus mode for some reason manually, you have to get out of it manually again with NVDA space. But I'm gonna hit F to go to the first form field on this page.
Banner landmark search the site submit button.
And search stuff at the top. I'm gonna go but E for
clickable name grouping first edit type first name
to the first edit field. And for some reason it didn't automatically put me in forms mode, so I'm gonna hit Shift Tab.
One progress name grouping.
And it put me on the name. And that little sound you heard,
list with,
that's it going out of focus mode.
Name grouping. First edit type first name blank.
That's going into forms mode, focus mode. And it landed on the first name, and you're getting good feedback here of the first name. Both the first and last name are kind of grouped together. So you had name and then it said first. And I'm going to type my name real quick.
E.
Kyle.
Last edit type last name blank.
Last name.
K B O R H.
Live demo, live typing. Can't even type my own name.
Date/time grouping. Month combo box collapsed.
So there's a date.
2 not selected. 3 7 8 not selected. 9 of 13. 9 not selected. Month combo box 9 day combo box DD collapsed. Thursday, September 19th. 1 not selected. 2
pick the date
9
here.
not selected. 19 not selected. Day combo box 19 collapsed. Year combo box Y 2025. 2024. Address grouping. Address line 1.
We're gonna go to the address field, 123 Main
T dot
Street.
address line 2 edit city edit type city name blank
Uh,
T L U state combo
address,
box select your state of res expand S Missouri not select state
Missouri,
combo box Missouri collapsed zip code edit 1 0 8
310
8 9
9.
selected country combo box United States phone edit type area code and phone number blank error message alert please enter a valid phone number error message explain what
Well, it gave me an error there as I'm trying to fill it out,
phone edit invalid
which
entry
is
error
good.
message 5
But
blank dash 5 5
dash 5555
5
5.
explain what assistive technology you are needing. A. Do you have internet access at home? No radio button checked. Yes. Are you seeking other programs and checkbox not checked required invalid entry tap internet.
And it's another thing you want to also specify a lot of the form fields if you want to specify that they're required, especially if they are, because filling out a lot of these forms constantly, it can be quite a burden sometimes to if you're using some sort of assistive technology and slower than most people. So the more you can tell the user that, hey, you don't actually have to fill out this form. You can if you want, but it's not required. Um, that greatly eases the burden of filling out really complicated forms, especially for some of our governmental forms online that a lot of the stuff is required, but maybe some of it isn't. Um, So I'm just gonna stop here. Starting to
1033.
run a little bit short on time. But the main thing for form fields is that they're properly labeled and you're giving proper feedback to the user, um, either before they submit on errors before they submit or after they submit for some reason if there's errors.
Power slideshow.
Um,
Slide 8.
so
NVDA demo. Bullet tables.
The tables are going to be real quick here. The main thing for tables is that um, don't use them for, this isn't on the slide, but don't use them for layout. This isn't the 90s anymore. Use um, proper stuff built into your browser, JavaScript, Bootstrap, CSS to lay your website out. Don't use tables. It's not the 90s anymore.
Bullet proper column.
But that the table has proper column headings and row headings. That way, that NVDA, when you're moving through a table, is able you get the context because NVDA only sees one thing at a time. You're able to see the row that you're on in the data, but then you're also able to get NVDA will tell you whatever column or row you're in, which really helps someone get that context of here's a list of numbers. What do these numbers apply to? And I'll show that real quick. Over here on the
Tap in. Testing.
after the before
Link.
page, we can go went to the top. We can go to tables with T.
Table with 7 rows and 3 columns. Row 1 column 1 respondent category.
And we have a table with 7 rows and 3 columns. And to move through tables, use Control, Alt, and the arrow keys. Down goes down a row, up goes up a row, and left or right go to the column to the left and to the column to the right. So I'm going to go down to this first row.
Row 2 blindness.
Blindness.
Column 2 1179.
1179, but I have no idea what that applies to.
Row 3 306.
306. I don't know what that applies to.
Column 3 19.9%.
19.9%. I don't percentage of what? So if I show this on the after page,
checkbox not checked, out of list, testing
the table,
not in a table, row 1 column 1 response, column 2 not clickable, row 2 1179.
1000
number of respondents, column 2 1179.
number of respondents 1179. So now I know what that is. And if I move by the rows,
clickable, row 2 1000, Respondent category column 1 blindness.
We know that's the blindness.
Clickable row 3 low vision / visually impaired.
Low vision.
Number of respondents column 2 306.
Respondents of 306. And the percentage.
Percentage of respondents column 3 19.9%.
That's the 19.9%, the percentage of respondents. A simple little table. Honestly, it probably would be, and we actually don't even have the row headers on this. We probably should have had those on there. But simple little table, but it gets way complex with some of the tables and statistics that some agencies might produce. And if you can, the more you can make those accessible, the better.
Slideshow. Bullet proper column. Bullet prop. Slideshow. NVDA. Bullet visuals.
And some visuals.
Bullet use audio descriptions.
So this is getting into some of the more advanced section of stuff I'm going to touch on real quick. If you have any videos on your page, particularly videos that are like music and don't have any dialogue or audio content other than just music, and there's only visuals, please, please, please put audio description on those if you can. An audio description is an audio track that gives us blind and visually impaired people visual access to what's happening visually on the screen.
Bullet use alt text.
And obviously we already talked about alt text.
Bullet gives some indication that
and the really more advanced thing here, what I talked about before, if there's some sort of something dynamic happening on the page, you don't necessarily switch a page, have a page redirect, so you can't necessarily change the title of the page. But you've submitted the form, but it stays on that same page. Give some sort of indication on the page that your submission was successful. And if it's something a little bit more dynamic through an AJAX call, getting a little bit more technical here, but you'll want to use what's called ARIA. ARIA, ARIA, Internet Application, Accessible Rich Internet Application, I think is what it stands for. But ARIA, it's basically a dynamic way of giving content to the screen reader to alert the screen reader user of something happening. And this can be misused. So the less ARIA you use, the more you stick to building everything into your page accessibly, semantically by default, the better. But that option is available to you if you need it. It comes in a little bit more JavaScript heavy stuff, dynamic content, and things to give screen reader users access to information that they'd be communicated only visually, and there's not really a good way to do it other than giving some sort of ARIA message, ARIA information, ARIA markup.
Let's talk ICT. Let's talk.
So
this is
yes.
Eileen. We had a question related to media players. What do you suggest to use for a media player so that we can turn on or off audio descriptions? Or do we make 2 videos?
So that's a good question. I should show this demo.
Test.
We do have an audio player here on the page.
Clickable next page button. Frame clickable share menu button sub menu.
This is actually an embedded YouTube player.
Play button.
So that is accessible. A lot of sites just use embedded YouTube players. Or you could just put a link to the YouTube video and have them go to YouTube directly. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of video players out there that will embed or make available audio description. I can do some research, but I don't know of anyone's necessarily. Particularly, what a lot of people do with YouTube is they'll have a non-audio described version and an audio described version out there, which isn't the best solution. YouTube has talked about being able to embed audio description directly into a single video, but that was a couple of years ago and they had one update on it and nothing ever went anywhere after that. So that's unfortunately the current situation of audio description with a lot of the players out there.
1041A.
So,
Slideshow.
uh, like I said, hope everyone got a lot of good information from this demo.
From me and M.
This is just the barest tip of the iceberg, kind of demoing our pages here. Um, I really say if you do end up borrowing the kit, definitely look at the guides we created because they have a lot of good information. Um, the NVDA, there's a lot of built-in help into the NVDA screen reader itself. You can pull up the menu NVDA N again,
NVDA.
and if you press H,
User Guide U.
there's a whole big user guide that gets very, very, very technical into all the different minutiae of using NVDA.
Commands Quick Reference Q.
There's a quick commands reference that you can reference. It just lists all the different keys and in the different situations that you can use them in.
What's new N?
I mean, you can look at what's new, but that's not necessarily if you're just using it to test, that's not necessarily something you want to be checking out
NV
necessarily.
Access Web.
You can visit the NVDA website.
Help.
And
training and support page.
They do have a link here too, if you want to get look at more training guides and stuff on NVDA, links you to their help page.
NV Access Shop S.
And they do have a shop.
License I.
And
contributors O. Welcome dialog. Check for update about
that. Oh, and
user guide U.
That's about it in this menu. That's you can use for research and help.
Coming up.
But coming up in the next couple weeks and over the next couple months, we have more demos.
October 3rd, 2024, 10 a.m. Central Time, Head Mouse Nano, and on-screen keep coming up.
Yeah, October 23rd, the Head Mouse, Nano, and Switch.
October 17th, 2024, 10 a.m. Central Time, voiceover on an iOS device.
Voiceover on, it says iOS, but it's the iPad. Chad Rower is going to do that demonstration.
November 7th, 2024, 10 a.m. Zoom Text Magnify.
All these are 10 a.m. Zoom Text.
November 21st, 2024, 10 a.m.
Dragon Dictation.
Dragon Professional.
With Eileen. And the last one
December 5th, 2024, 10 a.m.
is the Helper Bird demo. And
December 5th.
We do have an in-person demonstration, which that's not on here. Eileen, when is that again? Is that the 12th?
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to look though. And we will reach out to everybody that's involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got plenty of time before then. Not quite Christmas, but we're almost there. But I think that is the majority of this demo.
Okay.
Please tell me if anyone has any questions or wants me to demo anything else.
Yeah, that's we just had one follow-up to the audio description. Where Amy Nicholas added when she's done videos, she builds the audio descriptions as part of the script so that it's all in one video. And then when you add the captions, you can toggle them on or off. And then Jessica asks, where can we find the recording? So if you've registered, your emails will be given this link directly. It will be on our YouTube channel, Missouri Assistive Technologies YouTube channel. In about a week, you'll be able to access it there. And we have one other slide. We'd like to have Lainey Strange, who's our web accessibility expert, kind of address some best practices as well for states.
From Jessica.
Hey, Eileen, can I comment real quick on the description and captions? So captions, I would not put the audio description in the captions, because, I mean, you can, as a screen reader user, you can access the captions on YouTube, but for the most part, captions aren't for someone using a screen reader. Captions are for, getting some sort of visual text indication that something auditorially is happening, and or getting obviously the text of the dialogue. A blind person can already hear the dialogue. And so cluttering up the captions with an audio description is a clutter for someone that's trying to actually read the captions because they can't uh, hear the audio for some reason, whether they're deaf or a lot of times people just have their phones muted because they're watching videos and they don't want the audio to be disturbing everyone around them, but they read the subtitles or the captions. Um, but then if you put it in anywhere, a lot of times people are putting out text transcripts as a separate file of their video. Might want to consider putting it in there if you have to put it anywhere. Um, but yeah, the subtitles and captions and audio description are technically three separate things and should not be mixed.
We just don't have technology that's caught up with our expectations yet on
Yeah,
doing it properly. Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, I so wish that there was better support for audio description out there.
Yes.
It's built
Room for
into a lot
improvement.
of yeah, it's built into a lot of our streaming services nowadays, like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus. Uh, I just wish YouTube would kind of get on the ball for it.
And we have time for one more comment here, and then we'll turn it over to Lainey. But just a quick question from Ian. He's working through an AF bar that will expand when hovering over with a mouse, but won't
Hmm.
expand when just highlighted. Just wanted to see if there was a NVDA setting that can trigger this, or if I needed to keep working with the CSS.
So in that case, um, you want to is you want to basically have it expand um, on hover too, but I would also make it expand on press or on click as well. Because when you're pressing like NVDA or when you're pressing enter on NVDA to activate something like a menu pop-up, that also simulates an on-click event. Um, and um, if you're using an accessibility checker like Wave to run that on your page, and if it looks at that menu and it doesn't see some sort of on-click event, it just sees mouse interactions like on hover and stuff like that, it will probably flag that as not being keyboard accessible. Um, so that's a resource, and they have lots of resources on there about making menus and stuff that can only be activated with a mouse keyboard accessible.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
And Lainey, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Can you hear me all right?
Hmm.
Awesome. All right. So we decided to kind of end each session with the best practice. And it basically kind of covers things kind of from like the development. So a lot of these things are going to be more from a developer perspective. There may be a few that even as like content creators, this will apply to you. A lot of focus will be with kind of the development side of websites. But the first one is very general. Obviously, as he's NVDA and screen readers specifically, you're obviously putting that mouse away. And when you're doing, your keyboard testing, etc., you want to focus and check that keyboard access, which is very relevant to the conversation that was just mentioned about, the on hover versus including on press and on click. I can attest to my own testing on different web applications that's something common I see, that the on hover is activated for different events, but the on click on press isn't, and that you just have to incorporate those kind of events in there to make it keyboard accessible. Um, again, Kyle mentioned this, but just to reiterate, use native HTML elements as much as possible and use them correctly. Using HTML elements natively makes things more accessible and makes them much easier to make accessible. And then I went ahead and gave an example about using them correctly. for example, let's say you're creating a form that has checkboxes on it. You know, I saw an example one time where they created a button element and then applied the role equals checkbox. Well, why not just use the native HTML element? It's much easier, and there's just a lot less room for things, you know, things to go wrong. And then the ARIA, kind of one of the rules is no ARIA is better than bad ARIA. And to educate yourself on how to use it and when to use it. And he kind of gave an example with that kind of like that dynamic situation that would be good to use it. You know, don't load down your pages with ARIA because it doesn't create some sort of shortcut to accessibility, because it can, if not used correctly, can actually create a barrier without you really realizing it. So it's kind of, think of ARIA as, you know, the example that Kyle gave, and in many ways it may kind of just extend accessibility, but you don't want it to try to substitute just using semantic HTML, because that's where things can kind of go wrong. But just educate yourself on how to use it and when to use it. And then, you know, he talked a little bit about error identification. I thought it'd be good to mention, you know, if you have required fields, if you have errors, you know, if you have a date format that's not right, that, you know, that built-in error messaging, you know, the reader needs to know that those errors are there, or they're just going to be confused and maybe think the form submitted when it really didn't. So making sure that you build in focus to your error messaging in order for a screen reader to know it's there and to act upon it. And Kyle, you have anything else to add there? Probably agree with those, right?
No, definitely agree. Like I said, the main thing is, and I thought it was good of you might think the form is submitted, but it's actually not. But the main thing is just kind of give some sort of indication of what's the error. Try and put focus on it if you can, but don't don't just say, oh, the errors are highlighted in red. Well, that
Yep.
doesn't do any good.
Yep. Exactly. And that kind of wraps it up for kind of the part on best practice.
Awesome, thank you. And if you have access to any of the devices that we are talking about going forward, you can also use these pages that we're demonstrating on the testing before page and after page. I'll include a link to get to that. It's underneath our ICT resources. So we'd love to have you practice with that. So it'll be consistent with what you're seeing in our demonstrations as well. And you can always reach out to any of us if you have any questions. If you can send it on to me, and then I can forward it on to the person that you were trying to reach. So at this point, is there any questions, anything you would like us to cover that we haven't talked about yet? Well, hearing none, seeing none, I want to thank you guys all for joining us, and appreciate your time and commitment to making websites more accessible going forward. This will be really beneficial for so many. And thank you, Kyle, for your presentation. This is an exceptional one because you also use your device, and so you can really talk to how to use it properly. So we appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank you everyone for coming.